You know, from the outside, the rich and famous seem to have it all. Glamorous parties, designer clothes, million-dollar vacations. But what happens when the cameras stop flashing and those mansion doors close? Rich people problems aren't just about choosing between a private jet or a yacht. Sure, the lifestyle looks perfect. Flawless Instagram posts, front row seats at fashion shows, endless champagne. But let me tell you a story that'll make you see all of this in a completely different way. This is about someone who had it all: money, fame, influence, until it all came crashing down in ways you wouldn't believe. And honestly, losing the luxury wasn't even the worst part. The real nightmare was everything that happened behind the scenes, when no one was watching. Money can buy a lot of things, but can it buy peace of mind? Can it keep your past from catching up with you? And when everything falls apart, do people care about you, or just what you used to have? Let's talk about a woman who found out the hard way that the higher you rise, the harder you fall. And sometimes, the hardest thing isn't losing everything, it's finally facing the truth. Manohara Odelia Pinot was born on February 28, 1992, in Jakarta, Indonesia. With an Indonesian mother and an American father, she had a striking look that turned heads wherever she went. But behind the polished image, her life was anything but smooth. Her father walked out when she was just 2. Later, her mother Daisy married a German man, and the family moved around Europe, mostly between England and France. Constantly packing up and starting over wasn't easy, but at least it meant she grew up speaking multiple languages: English, Indonesian, and French. Daisy had big ambitions for her daughter. She wanted Manohara to live a life of luxury, to be part of high society. So she made sure she was always in the right circles, signing her up for dance lessons, modeling workshops, and elite social events. By the time she was 12, Manohara was already working as a model. By 14, she was on magazine covers and recognized as one of Indonesia's most beautiful women. It seemed like she was on the fast track to fame and fortune. But life had other plans. That year, an invitation arrived for a grand royal banquet in Kuala Lumpur, hosted by Malaysia's then Deputy Prime Minister, Najib Razak. It was a high-profile event filled with powerful people. And somehow, Manohara, still just a teenager, ended up on the guest list. That night, she walked into the event in a stunning gown, catching the attention of none other than Crown Prince Tengku Muhammad Fakhry Petra of Kelantan. He was in his 30s, 14 years older than her, and still unmarried. The moment he saw her, he was hooked. From then on, he pursued her relentlessly. Expensive gifts, luxury vacations, private yacht parties. He went all out. He even traveled to Jakarta regularly just to see her. But despite the wealth and status, something about it made Manohara uneasy. The age gap, the intensity, it just didn't feel right. Her mother, on the other hand, saw it differently. To Daisy, this wasn't just a prince, it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. A royal marriage meant power, influence, and financial security. She pushed Manohara to accept, promising her a dream life and even negotiated a hefty dowry. So, on August 26, 2008, after months of pressure, Manohara reluctantly married the Crown Prince. The wedding was a massive event, covered by the media, with everyone believing she was stepping into a glamorous new life. But behind closed doors, things took a dark turn. For months, she was rarely seen in public. On the rare occasions she was, people noticed she had gained weight and assumed she was simply enjoying the royal lifestyle. The truth, she was trapped in a nightmare. Then, in May 2009, something shocking happened. Manohara made a dramatic escape from a hotel in Singapore, pleading for help from both the US and Indonesian governments. The details of that night sound like something straight out of a movie. She was staying at the Royal Plaza Hotel with the prince and his entourage when she saw her chance. In the elevator, just as they were heading to a private parking lot, The bodyguards tried to drag her out, but Manohara fought back. She called out that the security cameras were recording everything. The hesitation gave her just enough time. She slammed the alarm button. The loud siren blared, drawing hotel security to the scene. Within minutes, police officers and her mother arrived, catching the prince in the act. A tense argument followed. The prince insisted she was his wife and that he had every right to take her with him. But the officer wasn't having it. He made it clear this was Singapore and nobody had the right to force another person against their will. Standing in front of Singaporean police, tears streaming down her face, Manohara Odelia Pinot made a desperate accusation. Her husband had abused her and held her captive for months. She explained that in Malaysia, under his strict control, she never had a chance to escape. This trip to Singapore, it was her one shot at freedom. Crown Prince Fakhry wasn't going to let her go that easily. He ordered his bodyguards to sedate her right then and there. But before they could do anything, the Singaporean police stepped in, stopping them just in time. Manohara was quickly taken to a private room where authorities assured her no one could take away her freedom on their soil. She knew what she was risking. Exposing the dark reality behind the glittering royal life could come with serious consequences. But at that moment, she didn't care. She had to take that chance. And with the support of the Singaporean police, as well as the US and Indonesian embassies, she refused to go back to Malaysia. Instead, she was immediately flown back to Jakarta. The news spread like wildfire. Manohara's daring escape sent shockwaves through international media, throwing the Malaysian royal family into a crisis. It wasn't just about her. It was about the hidden horrors behind royal walls, the power dynamics, and the silenced voices. Her story triggered intense diplomatic discussions between the nations involved. Back in Indonesia, Manohara wasted no time. She held a press conference, and the entire world listened. Through tears, she described the nightmare she had lived, the truth behind her so-called fairy tale marriage. She admitted that, in the beginning, she had a somewhat positive impression of Prince Fakhry. But the massive age gap and the fact that she wasn't ready for marriage made her hesitant. The legal marriage age for women in Malaysia was 18, but child marriages were still a major issue, with girls as young as 12 being married off. For Fakhry, her young age wasn't an obstacle, it was an opportunity. And then came the betrayal that cut even deeper than the prince's actions. Manohara hadn't wanted to marry him, but when she turned to the one person she thought she could trust, her mother Daisy, she was met with silence. Instead of protecting her, Daisy pushed her into the marriage. She was blinded by the idea of status, wealth, and a royal connection. Even worse, Daisy was drowning in debt. And to her, Fakhry wasn't just a suitor, he was a financial solution. So, despite Manohara's cries for help, despite her fear and resistance, her mother handed her over. If the marriage had been even remotely happy, maybe this story would have taken a different turn. But behind palace doors, Fakhry's mask slipped. He treated Manohara like an object, something he owned. The abuse wasn't just emotional or verbal. It was physical. It was brutal. It was unimaginable. The details of what she endured are horrifying. She revealed that Fakhry would inject her with drugs that left her in a state of full consciousness, but completely paralyzed. She could see, hear, and feel everything, but she couldn't move. She couldn't fight back. And then, the real torture would begin. He would cut her skin, watching her flinch in agony, knowing she was powerless to stop him. It was pure, calculated cruelty. She secretly documented her injuries, desperate to gather evidence, but it wasn't easy. She was watched constantly. Any attempt to escape was stopped before it even began. Until Singapore. That was her moment, and she took it. Her escape was a victory, but it didn't erase the damage. The trauma of those months haunted her. She was afraid to sleep, terrified of what had been done to her while she was unconscious. The mental and physical toll was overwhelming. Manohara had everything stripped away: her phone, her freedom, even the ability to speak to her own family. Her husband, Prince Fakhry, made sure of that. He had her watched 24/7, surrounded by bodyguards who weren't there for her safety, but to make sure she stayed exactly where he wanted her. Even in public, when cameras were flashing and she was forced to smile, someone was always keeping an eye on her, making sure she played the role of the happy wife. But behind closed doors, it was a different story. She later revealed that if she ever disobeyed, she'd be tortured. The abuse, the isolation, the complete loss of control over her own life, it pushed her to the edge. At one point, she decided to go on a hunger strike, hoping that maybe, just maybe, someone would take notice. But Fakhry didn't care. If anything, he got crueler. Instead of letting her waste away, he started injecting her with hormones that made her gain weight rapidly. Her appearance changed so much that the public just assumed she was living the good life, indulging in the luxuries of royalty. No one had any idea what was really happening. For 9 months, she lived in what she later described as a gilded hell. She desperately wanted out, but every attempt to escape was shut down, until May 2009. That was when the Kelantan Sultan, Fakhry's father, travelled to Singapore for medical treatment. And Manohara? She saw an opening. It was a risky move, but she was out of options. She deliberately caused a scene at the hotel, making sure to get the attention of the Singaporean police and embassy officials. It worked. In that moment of chaos, she broke free. And just like that, her captivity was over. The news spread fast. Her escape exposed not only Fakhry, but also the dark, hidden reality of life inside the Malaysian royal family. The scandal was massive, and suddenly the whole world was watching. At the press conference, Manohara didn't hold back. She showed photos of her injuries, undeniable proof of what she had endured. She even took legal action against Fakhry in Indonesia, determined to get justice. But of course, he fought back, denying everything, and even suing her and her mother for defamation in Malaysia. And guess what? He won. The court ordered Manohara to pay 1.2 million ringgit, but she refused. She wasn't going to give him anything, not money, not her silence, and definitely not her return to Malaysia. Instead, she filed for divorce and never looked back. Even after everything she went through, public opinion was divided. Some people supported her completely, heartbroken by her story. Others weren't so sure, especially when rumors surfaced that her mother had accepted a large sum of money from Fakhry before the wedding. Was Manohara truly a victim? Was there more to the story? To this day, no one really knows the full truth. What is clear, though, is that when she returned to Indonesia, she was broken. Physically, emotionally. Every part of her had been shattered. It took years for her to recover from what she described as a living nightmare. But she did recover. With the support of the Indonesian public, Manohara slowly reclaimed her life. She went back to modelling, earning the nickname the Runaway Princess. And from there, she built something new, acting in films, appearing in magazines, becoming a public figure on her own terms. She even started using her platform to support causes she cared about, like wildlife conservation and humanitarian work. She may not have a royal title anymore, but she doesn't need one. Her story has inspired so many people, especially women who felt powerless in the face of abuse. She's a reminder that survival is possible, that escaping doesn't mean the end, and that no amount of wealth or status is worth losing yourself. But it also raises questions. How many other girls are trapped in situations like this, unable to escape? And at what point does society stop turning a blind eye to the powerful and start protecting the vulnerable? That's all for today's video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more updates. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next.